Thanks very much. Thanks for the introduction and welcome, the chance to be back here again and to say a few words that hopefully will go together with more motivation for all of us to step up and do more. But this world has gotten into a dire condition, a dire situation, and it's called me several times to travel over into the Middle East to get eyes on and hands on the situation there. I am, and I've long been convinced, that it's all-out genocide against Christians and Yazidis that's perpetrated by ISIS. And it's not limited just to the Syrian and Iraqi region either. It goes well beyond. And so maybe I'd like to go to the outside of this and bring it into the center core if I can. And I'll say there is some reason for hope in the Middle East. And one of that would be the circumstances that I've seen transpire in Egypt over the last few years. In 2013, the Egyptian people said, we don't want the Muslim Brotherhood running our country. And a third of them went to the streets and called upon relief and called upon Morsi to step down and be replaced. Morsi, the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, at least at the time in Egypt. That happened. And the voice of the Egyptian people was heard. They wrote a constitution, they ratified the constitution, they elected a president. And in that constitution it says that the government of Egypt, the taxpayers of Egypt, will rebuild the Christian churches in Egypt that have been destroyed in that process of locational genocide within Egypt that has taken place. A wedding party of roughly 50 that were killed and slaughtered on a wedding day at the church. But around 100 churches were destroyed, and they're in the process of rebuilding them now. It's not complete. The Army's doing a lot of that work. Around 9 to 10% of the population of Egypt is Christian, and we should look at Egypt as a country that can be bridged from the east to the west and can be protecting the rights of the religious minorities within Egypt. Although Christians go to church on the same day Muslims do, they have a lot better opportunity there than they had under Morsi, or that they've had any time that I know of. So that is a piece of it. I've lost track of the trips I've made into the Middle East. It's kind of like a sewing machine, going back and forth over there. I feel a sense I'm called to go there to see and witness and help to the extent I can. I'm just thinking a few months ago, and near the similar time that Juan spoke, that I was in there, we went to find Christian camps that we thought might be there. And as we looked, we found out, you want to find Christians in the Middle East? And I went into Istanbul and then down to Erbil and back again and then out of the Middle East. The best place to find Christians in that part of the world is go to church. So I went to church on Saturday night in Istanbul, and I went to church on Sunday morning in Erbil, and I met Christians in both places, along with families that were brought to us. And we met with the Chaldean bishop that Juan mentioned as well, and that was my second meeting with him. I'm talking with people that are leaders of this in this country too, but the Chaldean Christians, the Assyrian Christians in the Nineveh Plains region. And one of the meetings that I had was with the younger Barzani of the Kurds, and this meeting was in Erbil, and we had met a number of times before. But I pressed him to support an international safe zone for the religious minorities, and particularly the Christians, but also the Yazidis in the Nineveh Plains region. And when I made that case to him, he turned that back to me, and he made a case in support of an international safe zone that was probably 3 or 4 times more eloquent than the argument that I had made to him. And when I hear something like that come from someone, you get a sense of it's not the first time they thought of it, it's not the first time they said it. And I said to Barzani, that's not the first time you've said that, is it, in support of an international safe zone in the Nineveh Plains region for especially Christians? He said, no, that's my public position, and we will defend and protect an international safe zone in the Nineveh Plains region. So which gets me to this point, which is we can bring relief for Christian refugees to the United States, but we can bring relief to at least a dozen of them in their own region for the same kind of money and the same kind of effort. If we allow for the transport of Christians from a region, that's sacrificing that geographical area of the native homelands of Christianity to ISIS or whoever the particular tyrant of the region might be at the time. And that's conceding, that's retreat. I think that we need to do all we can to protect religious minorities everywhere in the world. I think the speech that Trent Franks gave was poignant, was on target, and I hope you do invite him back. I want to say that about him, I know you will. But I think he hit this very, very well. One of the other stops that I made within the last few months, last part of June, was into Geneva. And I met with UNCOR there, the UN High Commission on Refugees. And we had data in front of us, some 1,562, if the number hits me exactly right, refugees had been brought out of the Syria and the Iraq region into the United States, and of them, one was a Christian. One. And I remember asking the director of USCIS, do you vet these refugees for religion? Do you know what percentage of them are Christians? His answer was, no, we don't know. How would we know? We don't ask questions about your religion. We just give relief to people. So I asked the question at UNCOR in Geneva. How many do you, they filter all of them. We get out, we draw from, the U.S. draws from the list of UNCOR. And how many do you have? The answer was, we have processed and done what they will call a background check that I don't have a lot of confidence in. 115,000 refugees that are eligible to be moved into the refugee system of the United States or other countries that are accepting them. 115,000. How many of them are Christians? 15,000. Now that's around what, 12 or 13% Christians identified in the forms of UNCOR, but yet the United States has no idea. They must have. They must be going through that list saying, we aren't going to let any Christians come to America. But they let one sneak through out of over 1,500, but there's that list that we could go to, 12, 1,300 as well. So if we're going to bring people in that need refuge, I'd like to be giving preference to Christians from where I stand. But I want to save them, protect them wherever they are in the world, and I don't want to concede one bit of real estate. I don't want to give them a victory. This is God's will in His time. He calls upon us. And Mark Meadows called upon us to raise our voices and bend our knees in prayer. And when he said that, I thought, I want to look this up because I want to get the exact quote right. It's such a significant time. And so I keep this in my notes. But just very recently, Mother Teresa was canonized as a saint by Pope Francis. And this is a prayer of hers that I have carried with me in my electronics for years. And I never really caught it exactly to memory, but I'll read it to you so it's exactly right. She says this, I used to pray that God would feed the hungry or do this or that, but now I pray that He will guide me to do whatever I'm supposed to do, whatever I can do. I used to pray for answers, but now I'm praying for strength. I used to believe that prayer changes things, but now I know that prayer changes us, and we change things. And that's going to sign off a little food for my soulmate. I sent that to my wife some years ago. So I wanted to bring that up in this way. Yes, prayers matter, and if God wants to move mountains, He'll move mountains. If He wants to park the ark on top of one, He'll do that. But He also calls upon us to pray and do. And the prayer that changes us is going to be a requirement in this country for us to step up and defend Christians throughout the world. And it's going to take a sense of duty, a sense of faith, a sense of sacrifice, and it's going to take a leader in America that sees this with the vision that you all see it here. And I pray that God raises up a leader whom He will use to restore the soul of America and reward the Christians in the world. Thank you very much. God bless you.